It seems like every day we hear about new scams and new scandals with regard to people stealing our identities. On this episode of Friends Talk Financial Planning, we're going to talk about actionable steps that you can take and things to be aware of to make sure that you protect your identity. Hi, I'm John Shear, and I run a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin.
And I'm Bridget Sullivan-Ramel, and I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois. And before we jump into identity theft, please subscribe. It helps us with YouTube. Okay,
That's right.
So John, I'm really excited about this episode because I think you have a better game on identity theft protection than I do. So what's your first tip?
Well, yeah, maybe I've been exposed to it more, and we've unfortunately had some things go where we've learned some lessons on that. And the number one tip that we have for people is to never send any confidential information over regular email, over open email. We've got a consultant that works with us, and he described sending an email like sending a postcard. If you wouldn't put it on the back of a postcard and mail it out, you don't put it in an email. So things like Social Security numbers, things like tax documents, which have Social Security numbers on them, account statements, account numbers, all those sorts of things are out there and available, or at least potentially so, right? So you've got to assume that it's like a postcard. I think that's a really easy way to think about it. And when you think about, would you put this on a postcard, that really helps inform some of our decisions when we send emails to people.
Right. So, hi, I'm Bridget. My Social Security number is blah, blah. I wouldn't put that on a postcard. Right.
Well, and I hopefully some of these things we're going to talk about today are self-evident, like, oh yeah, repeating, maybe there's an idea or two, or maybe you can pick some big things up. But I'll tell you what, we've got people on both ends of the spectrum in our practice. I've got a client who had run a major company in town, and very intelligent person, and would send his W-2 or his tax information on open email and saying, geez, we can't do this, right? Ended up one year, he got a notice from the IRS in early February, and he was always on extension because of this complexity of his tax situation. A notice from the IRS early February saying, hey, we got a problem with this tax return you filed. What tax return I filed? Well, somebody had filed a fraudulent tax return, claimed earned income credit, a bunch of refundable things, and using his Social Security number. Every year now, he's got to file a special form to make sure that the IRS knows it's him filing.
Right.
On the other end of the spectrum, just actually literally this week, got an email from an adult child of a client of ours that we work with, mid-20-something, in tune, as I would think, in tune with what's going on in the world today. Hey, here's my W-2, Social Security number on it, an open email from a Gmail account, right? Just can't do it. So it's not, oh, hey,
old people,
right, boomer,
people.
do this,
yeah.
right? No, it's like this, and we need to be aware of these things. And what's the risk, right? Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, we've had some experiences. It is a real risk to do that, and it's simple to avoid it, right? Our business, I know your business, uploading things, there's secure portals where you can upload, and it's all compliant with the latest technologies and safety features, right? Uploading to portals. Sometimes you get an email from your bank or your mortgage company, and there's a special place you have to go log in, or there's a password protection on it, right? There's ways to do this that aren't terribly complicated. It's a little bit of a pain, but golly, compared to having your identity stolen, not very much of a deal.
Yeah, and to me, I would say just don't trust email. Like, it's not, the scammers depend on the rapidity that we use when we're going through email, like to scam us. So anytime I am concerned about it, I log in independently of the email.
Yeah, not clicking on the thing in the email, but going over to whatever website and logging in.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
it's a lot more secure. So if I get a weird notice from an institution, the scammers are adept enough so that they can copy that.
It looks good, boy.
Yeah,
and they're getting
exactly.
good.
And so, but that's okay. I have my password. I can log in.
So one of the things also is that when you get those emails, right, never click on anything if you aren't expecting that email to come, right? But if you get something like that and you go like, oh, I think this might be useful, sometimes you can hover, not sometimes, but you can hover over that link, right? Don't click it, But if you put your mouse over it and it says, hey, if this is from Fidelity and the link goes to someplace in Zimbabwe, I know I can just delete that. Right? I don't have to think about it. If it still says it's going to Fidelity, what Bridget just explained, don't click the link anyway. Then go to your Fidelity account and open up separate. Hey, I might need to pay attention to this thing, but never click on anything in an email. There's no reason to. Seems easy, but it can be a cause for problem. One of the other things that we talking about logging in and getting things, is how many passwords do we all have these days, right? More than 2, right? And so best practices, and we probably have heard this for a long time, is don't use the same password for multiple accounts. Sounds like it's challenging, and it can be, but using password keepers or just keeping a list of those of the things, and we talk in our office about, and with clients, using passphrases and not passwords. Right? And the evidence that we've been able to uncover says that it's not that having a symbol and a number and, and a cap, like those aren't the deciding factors. It's the raw length of your password, right? So once you get up past around 14 characters, then you become really protected against this brute force sort of like random number generator trying to figure out your password. And it's hard to remember a series of numbers and symbols, but something like football, pumpkin, apricot, right? Like, okay, those things, I can't do that math in my head, but that's probably 15 or 18 letters, right? Like that's more secure than having number, symbol, ampersand, capital, lowercase, like that sort of a thing. So that's one of the things is passphrases. You can have a pretty long passphrase and make it more secure than a typical password.
Right. Another thing that I like is multi-factor multi-factor authentication, which is a fancy way for saying have it sent to your cell phone, and so you have you put your password in, and then you get a code on your cell phone.
Right.
Now, that is a gold standard in the industry, and it's still a gold standard to have those two things going on, and it can be kind of a pain, but then once you get more things on it, you just have it.
And my experience is you can get like one where it sends you a text message, or you've got some sort of authenticator. I think Google's got one in a couple places where here's this number, right, that shows up. There's different changes every minute, that sort of a thing.
Exactly.
And so, and that's, so you have to still have a passphrase for that. So you have to have something, I know the passphrase, but if you steal my passphrase, if you don't have my doohickey where I'm getting the code from, then you can't get in, right? Like that's again, it seems like a pain. It's not too big of a deal once you get used to it, but compared to having your things compromised and having your identity stolen, a pretty simple solution.
It's true that it does get ludicrous. I mean, like I have to have, if I make a hair appointment, I have to have two-factor authentication. Yeah, but so it does. There is. Well, so I do. There's part of me that protests at times, but it's better to just go with it.
I'll give a personal example. So I've got a Gmail account that I use for my newsletters and all the the mailing list, all the crap that comes in, and I'm guilty of having the same password for a few. I don't care about this subscription to this magazine or whatever thing that it was, right? And a few years ago had notification, hey, your password, this account was compromising. Well, I don't care because it's Gmail, it's the other thing. Well, the Gmail was connected somehow to, I can't remember what account it was, Amazon, some other place. And so the crooks went in and they had my login information, so they took it from here and they used it over there, and they bought some kind of tokens for some video game, like 3 $200 transactions that went onto my credit card. My credit card company caught it and said, hey, this seems kind of weird. We're able to get it unwound, but here's this thing, like, I don't even care about this, these silly passwords over here, because it's not my bank, it's not my credit card, not the important stuff. And yet it could have cost me money because of the way these things are. I mean, so much of our life is interconnected that it's a hassle. I protest too, but it makes sense to do some of those things.
Okay. I had a client just before I came here for filming who got a call from the Illinois Department of Revenue.
Interesting.
Now,
red flag.
Have you ever tried to get in touch with it? If we have any viewers that are involved, awesome. They're stand-up folks over there.
Yeah.
However, it can be hard to get through if you're trying to get through to them, much less have them call you.
Right. And so, I mean, that's the thing, same thing, IRS, right? We'll getting into
Social
tax
Security.
season, right? I mean, those agencies will never email you ever, right? And they'll never call you, right? And so, and I say never, but I did have one. I was teaching a class, and there was one person that said that he got a legitimate call from Social Security. Turns out that he had called them, and it was a callback thing, right? So that was...
Same with the IRS. They might call you if
if you call
If
them,
you call
right? But
them.
you're not going to get a phone call that says, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you owe $5,000 in tax." That doesn't happen,
And
right?
buy gift cards. No.
It sounds silly, but those are the real things.
Yeah.
It comes in U.S. postal mail, emails from those taxing agencies, phone calls. I mean, 99.9% of the time you ignore those things, right? So you don't have to. And again, it sounds when we sit and talk about it here, but you get in a situation, you get an email, and you go, "Holy moly, what's going on here?" The IRS sends you a nastogram. It can be scary, and you start to not think clearly on things. And again, practicing this, having those things in place, really can make a big difference.
Yeah, it happens to me, and like my heart rate goes up. And everything.
Right.
You know,
right.
like
And we know this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, the scammers. Yeah.
So the one other tip, the last 5-star tip that we have is to freeze your credit. And so it used to be that you had to pay to freeze your credit and then pay to unfreeze your credit. It was a big hassle. After the Experian had their breach of data a few years back, became law that it's free to freeze, free to unfreeze. And is it a little bit of a hassle? Yep, you got to go and get it. And usually you can do it online. I know from personal experience, we were buying a car and trying to think about should we finance it or not. You go on, you log in. There's 3 major agencies: TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. So you freeze your credit with all those agencies. And then if you need to go and unlock one of them, you can go and you have a login, right? Another login password, but you go in and say, let Ford Motor Company look at my credit for the next 2 days. And then it gets frozen again. That way nobody can ever open up credit in your name without having that unfrozen and having you take that action. So simple thing, but there's very little reason, I think, for people to have frozen, not to have their credit frozen these days. I don't know if you have a different, I know you maybe take a different approach or think that that's less important.
I just
Or
think
no?
it's a pain. And I haven't had a problem. I hate to admit it.
Yeah, yeah.
I shouldn't say that, but yeah, I feel like I haven't had cause for it yet.
Right.
But I'll probably go ahead and do it.
So
because
Bridget's going to watch
it's
this
got-
episode?
Yeah, exactly. But it's like they've made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I think that's the point. Is it used to be a pain.
Giant pain,
Yeah.
right.
And there used to be like, oh, maybe you should get one of these agencies that handle this for you. And it's like, no, it's not necessary. Now, we'll put a link in the show while I sign up. I'll put a link in the show so that, it's easy now. I guess that's the message.
It is way easier than it used to be. It used to be a big problem. Now it just solves a lot of those other problems. So with that, I'm John Shearer, and I run a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin.
And I'm Bridget Sullivan-Ramel, and I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois. Both John and I are proud members of the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners. If you're looking for a planner in your area, first, if you're in Chicago or in Middleton, please contact us. But throughout the nation, you can look at acplanners.org.
And don't forget, hit that subscribe button.